From Cardinal Television Studio, I'm Madison Kelly with your Fisher News Brief. It's unclear if the suspect in the string of deadly shootings in 3 Atlanta area spas will face hate crime charges. State and federal investigators are scrambling to learn more about the 21-year-old and his alleged motive. But the murder of 8 people, including 6 Asian women, is striking fear into millions of Asian Americans. Reporter Amra Walker has more on how the Asian community is reacting in Atlanta.
It was very evil. It was so obvious. She hated me. It's just because the way I looked.
The hate is palpable. So is a fear of being targeted simply for being Asian.
Yesterday, we were at the restaurant in Marietta, and I was getting my plate, and this lady was sitting at her table, and she's eating her meal, and she just looked at me very disgustingly, and I just stared at her.
Mison, who is Korean American, and her fiancé Toussaint both declined to give their last names out of concerns for their safety. They tell CNN they are now hyper-vigilant after the deadly spa shootings in Metro Atlanta, where it is legal to openly carry a handgun with a permit.
We came to lunch today, and I have to sit down with my firearm on me because you never know. It's an Asian establishment.
Incidents from verbal harassment to outright violence in California have many Asian Americans feeling threatened for their lives.
I didn't even see the person. I didn't lose anything. All my belongings is with me. They didn't rob me. So I think it's a hate crime.
A violent attack on the streets of San Francisco Monday left Danny Yu Chang with 2 black eyes that he says left him partially blinded. Chang doesn't feel safe anymore, so he's raising money to move out of the state. Today, the San Francisco Police Department says that after an alarming spike in anti-Asian violence in the Bay Area, they're stepping up patrols in predominantly Asian neighborhoods. The New York Police Department is doing the same in response to Tuesday's deadly Atlanta shootings. They hit too close to home for Georgia State Representative Bee Nguyen.
I have 4 sisters. We had a conversation last night about what was happening and whether or not we could determine if this was a hate crime. The conversation was, are we safe going outside? Do we need to take extra precautions?
Investigators say it is still too early to determine whether Tuesday's shootings were a hate crime and pointed to the suspect's claim of a potential sex addiction. But experts and activists argue it's no coincidence that most of Tuesday's victims were Asian women. Nguyen agrees.
Well, he went to 3 different locations, all owned by Asian business owners, all employing Asian workers, killing 6 Asian women. And when you think about how our country views Asian women, there is a sexualization of Asian women, both prevalent, I think, in Hollywood, in the media. So it's not a new concept, and those things are intertwined, and you can't tease them apart from each other.
6 out of the 8 victims were Asian. That fact alone pours salt into a trauma-filled wound that has festered since the COVID-19 pandemic began. According to Stop AAPI Hate, an Asian American and Pacific Islander advocacy group, there have been nearly 3,800 anti-Asian incidents reported since last March, with women reporting 68% of the incidents. Rohit Malhotra has been fighting this kind of discrimination with his nonprofit Atlanta Center for Civic Innovation. He says it starts with acknowledging the history of racism against Asians in America.
So what we are in the process of, I think, right now in this country is rehumanizing individuals who have been dehumanized from the beginning of getting here. So I think it's going to be this is a moment that hopefully leads to a movement.
And Mison says that movement won't begin until more Asians start speaking out.
But I think Asian culture need to speak about it. We don't need to keep it silent, and we just need to don't be afraid to talk about it.
The new issue of Time magazine features a cover package titled "We Are Not Silent." It focuses on violence against Asian Americans following the March 16th shootings in the Atlanta, Georgia area. 8 people, 6 of them Asian American women, were killed at businesses after a year of intense anti-Asian racism in the United States. Stop AAPI Hate, an initiative that began tracking violence and harassment against Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders last year, received over 3,000 complaints from all 50 states and Washington, D.C. More than a third of the incidents took place in businesses. Among those saying they've experienced hate, 42% identify as Chinese, followed by about 15% who are Korean. Authorities in Georgia are looking for a missing 1-year-old who was inside of a car stolen during a food delivery. They say Royalty Grisby's mother was making an Uber Eats delivery in Stone Mountain when 2 men stole her car. The infant was in the back seat. Officials say the men later dumped the car, but the child is still missing. Thursday, Royalty's mother made an emotional plea for the return of her daughter.
Put my baby home. That's it. can take her to the hospital, you can take her anywhere, take her to a store, just bring her home. She didn't do anything. She was just asleep in the back seat.
Grisby says she usually works as a delivery driver at night so the baby can sleep. Police are not sure at this time that the crime was a targeted attack or a crime of opportunity. Today, Spain approved a law permitting euthanasia, becoming the 4th European Union country to do so. This law will permit that people who have serious chronic illness with no chance of recovery and with unbearable suffering to request assistance from a doctor to end their life. It will take effect in 3 months and will stop current potential jail terms for people who help another to end their lives. Belgium, Luxembourg, and the Netherlands already allow euthanasia under certain conditions. YouTube's TikTok competitor is coming. Called Shorts, YouTube's phone app has many of the same features as TikTok and is aimed at social media creators. It's been around for some time in India, where YouTube has been beta testing the software. The short-form video creation tool is now starting to roll out in the US. It joins a crowded field of competitors trying to chip away at TikTok's market share, especially after concerns about the company's Chinese ownership arose. Instagram has Reels, Snapchat has Spotlight, and Reddit owns Dubsmash. They're all trying to target the next generation of influencers and become popular with young users. A rolling vehicle fire in the Midwest gives new meaning to the term hot pursuit. Jeremy Roth has today's Take a Look at this.
Hey, watch out!
It was less a vehicle on fire and more of a rolling fireball that Arkansas authorities had to deal with when a van with a trailer burst into flames and rolled down a hill in Fayetteville. Officials believe the vehicle overheated in a driveway before rolling away. The officer responding to the unique hot pursuit jumped into action and grabbed his fire extinguisher. Firefighters soon arrived, quickly putting out the flames. No injuries were reported from the surreal scene. A rescue operation to free a hooked goose in California exposed a larger issue that has local bird lovers crying foul. Wildlife rescuers believe this goose had a large fishing hook stuck in its beak for a week. They were able to avoid a wild goose chase and freed their feathered friend, but wildlife rescuers say there is a bigger issue at play. They say birds trapped by littered hooks and fishing line is the #1 service call they get annually.
We need to be better at cleaning up after ourselves and after others. Just pick it up. This is their home.
Finally, how about a moment of zen, courtesy of Glacier Bay National Park and Preserve, which recently shared an amazing time-lapse video of the northern lights dancing across the night sky in the Alaskan wilderness. For Take a Look at This, I'm Jeremy Roth.
That's it for today's news. For Fisher News Brief, I'm Madison Kelly.